Welcome to CEO Interviews, a production of Gore Call, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about what's going on at their companies. With us today, this is going to be a special treat for the first time. Matt Stang, he's CEO and co-founder of DELIC Holdings, trades on the CSC under DELC, and for our friends on the US, DELCF. He's the former former High Times CEO, so he's got a great background that we're going to talk about. But to understand DELIC, you first have to understand this. Psychedelics are going to go through a parabolic, paradigm-shifting growth curve in the next 5 years, maybe in 10 years, because their ability to treat anxiety and depression, amongst many, many other things. DELIC is a marketplace for the mainstream to access psychedelic wellness. They own and operate an umbrella of related businesses, but what a couple of them are: DELIC Labs, the only licensed entity by Health Canada to exclusively focus on research and development of psilocybin vaporization technology, and Ketamine Infusion Centers, one of the largest ketamine clinics in the country. Great M&A as of late, just recently, talking about June 8th and May 27th. Let's talk about the company. Matt, welcome for the first time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, let's before we dive into DELIC specifically, just yesterday I was watching CNBC and they had this great feature on as far as psychedelics and where they're going to go. How big of an opportunity is the psychedelics market going to be? Because I know it's nascent right now, but how big of a market do you think you guys are moving into here?
I think it's $1 trillion opportunity. I really do. I think there's just this incredible, both the medical side. So you look at depression, anxiety, PTSD. We've been through a very traumatic year and a half. And so the total addressable market for PTSD is now about 7 billion people. Not to be flippant, but the reality is, hundreds of millions of people have gone through traumatic experiences in the last year, and you have no current psychopharmacopoeia, no current substance that actually works to help treat that, other than the current crop of psychedelic substances. So the one we're working with right now, ketamine at Ketamine Infusion Centers, and then psilocybin and MDMA behind that are both going through FDA trials and will be approved within the next year to year and a half, but also the state legal, similar to what Oregon has done, and I think other Western states are going to embrace a similar model. So you have this incredibly huge opportunity. Like there's tens of billions of dollars in just microdosing potential. There's tens of billions of dollars in just psychiatric treatment. There's hundreds of billions of dollars in wellness and really making people well through these substances. And I think what we've put together is an incredible opportunity to invest in that nascent sphere. So we've built what will be the largest chain of ketamine clinics in America. And we see that as the place that people can go to really get psychedelic wellness now. And we see it as the framework for the future deployment of other novel compounds. We think that having that large-scale framework for people to go and get well with ketamine now will give us that leg up as other novel compounds are authorized by FDA. And so, as MDMA and psilocybin and some of the other novel compounds that are in phase 2 right now, those will need a place that is dedicated for that kind of psychedelic wellness, and that's what we're building. And we've built this incredible ecosystem to help people access. So, we have a content platform where people can learn more. We have an event series called MeetDelic, which is happening November 6th and 7th in Las Vegas, the largest psychedelic wellness conference ever. And so we're giving people these platforms to both interact, to learn, but it really is a great funnel because we bring people through these in the customer journey. They learn, they find out more, and then they can actually go experience at our clinics. So we think it's a really novel and interesting way to kind of control our own destiny.
And that's where you differentiate yourself, right? Because there are psychedelic companies that are starting to come to the market now, to the public markets. And for the most part, they're doing some pretty good stuff, I got to admit, but they're pretty focused. They're either clinics or R&D, right? But you guys are kind of taking, is that your differentiator, that you're taking George from, hey, George, let's educate you and walking you right through is your goal to be vertically integrated at the end of the day? That's why it's an ecosystem?
Yeah, the goal is to own our own pipeline, right? To not be at the mercy of some of these giant networks that people have to source all of their people from, their customers, their clients, their patients. We think that having that kind of ecosystem that allows people to discover, to learn, and then to actually experience is incredibly important, because we actually own the flow of people, and we can control our own destiny. And really what we've built is a bunch of cash flowing assets, right? So the deals that you're talking about, the one that closed in May and the one that we just signed the definitive agreement with yesterday, are both cash flow positive businesses that are scaling and growing. And so what we're doing is we're bringing them inside of this ecosystem. We're giving them the capital to continue scaling, and we're here to be a cash flow generating business, and then a long-term amazing opportunity for people to really tap into psychedelic wellness. And so that's where we see this going.
What I like about that is the following. Psychedelics are new. And in fact, they may even, the very term might scare people, right? Because for the most part, most of us grew up knowing psychedelics as an out of control recreational drug that became illegal. So is that a huge competitive advantage, that you're going to be taking people through that funnel, that education, that knowledge, at the same time creating your own, like you said, destiny, but at the same time making people feel comfortable, because they're not just going to call up ketamine infusion centers, say, hey, I want to come in for some ketamine. They need some comfort, right? They're going to need a lot of comfort and education through all this.
I think that's exactly right. And a big part of why we founded this company 3 years ago was to help mainstream that knowledge, right? So it's that the science is incredible. The science is there. The science shows there are no other substances that can do this. The current psychopharmacopoeia has a 4 to 5% efficacy rate, meaning 4 to 5% of people are clinically defined as better every year utilizing what's there. That means 95% of people are not, which is insane. The current crop of psychedelic substances have stuff that, numbers that range from 40 to 70% efficacy. So it's like 10 to 15x over where it's at right now, which is an order of magnitude better. And when you have something that's an order of magnitude better, it always wins. You look at anything that's happened across business in the last 100 years. If you create something an order of magnitude better, it's going to win, because it is logically that much better, right? So I think what we're seeing now is that science that had been created and that we really built ourselves to amplify is filtering out to the world. And we're giving people a starting point to learn more, and then to kind of progress on that customer journey from wanting to find out more, to learning more, to actually trying and finding their wellness. And so that,
and I think the world's looking for a solution like that. They really, really are, because the current pharmaceutical solutions don't seem to make people better. They just seem to I don't know, maybe put people into a state of pause, or
exactly.
I don't know what, but I'm suffering. Luckily, I don't suffer from any mental health issues, but I know people who do, and it just doesn't seem like they're getting any better on the traditional pharma side.
Yeah, no, it's my wife, who is my co-founder in this company, has an anxiety disorder, and we found about 2.5 years ago ketamine for her anxiety disorder, and it's changed her life and our life. And so that's really why we've moved into ketamine specifically. It is the only FDA approved psychedelic, and it is incredibly efficacious for anxiety, for depression, treatment resistant depression, PTSD, any kind of mood disorders. It's really incredible. It's I don't want to call it a miracle drug, but it does work in, somewhere between 50 and 70% of patients who are considered unhelpable. So you look at that, and that's hundreds of thousands of people a month who are in this situation. The total addressable market is millions and millions of people a year. And it's just, you talk about a really great business where you can help people, you could change the world for the better, and you can actually make money. And I think that's where we want to sit.
And by the way, for everyone at home, Matt isn't exaggerating when he's talking about the efficacy of psychedelics and how much, by several magnitudes, they are more effective than current pharmaceutical solutions out there. I've had discussions with other companies, with doctors, people in this who are saying it. The results have just been unbelievable, and I love the fact that psychedelics companies, and specifically Delic in this situation, give shareholders a double bonus, which is create shareholder value. That's the primary reason you're invested in the company. But then secondly, you're part of something that's actually making the world a better place, significantly better place. So on that note, you guys made this major acquisition of Ketamine Infusion Centers yesterday. Not a small acquisition, $3 million US. And it owns and operates right now 2 clinics in Phoenix and Bakersfield. What are the plans for the infusion centers going forward?
Expansion. So, what we see is that we have this opportunity to expand out the number of clinics. So we've already announced 2 more clinics, but we'll put out more about those as we actually implement. And then we see an opportunity to also create more services for people who already are coming in. So we think there's both, utilizing our network to really scale the number of people coming through, and then understanding how this really helps people and giving people more services that can help them. So we think it's a really great, scalable, profitable business. And you're going to see a lot more from us on that as we go forward and implement and really take our marketing know-how. We have an incredible team. We brought in the former CMO from Bulletproof, which took that business from 0 to 250 million in sales, and really understands that kind of direct channel marketing for affinity consumers. And so we're really going into that, and we're going to be really pushing that, hey, you're not alone. Your mental health disorder is not a stigma. It's not a problem. And it has been because it's been untreatable and unfixable with the current crop of psychopharmacopoeia. So people feel like they have to hide it because there is no way through, right? Yeah. And I think giving people hope that there is a way through, and belief that there is a modality or modalities that will help you get past your mental health issues is, as you said, a great social good. I think we fall under that ESG kind of world. And I also think, it is a great business because you are actually helping people. So those people who are helped then tell their friends and family how incredibly beneficial it has been.
So Matt, having said that, what's the number you guys are aiming to get to in terms of number of clinics in 2021 and maybe 2022? Do you guys have, I'm sure you guys probably have that mapped out. And what role do regulations play in your expansion?
Yeah, so I think we see ourselves getting to, a dozen or more clinics by the end of the year. And we think we can be at about 30 by the end of 2022.
Wow. Financing, I mean, but to get to that point, you're going to have some strong financing. And look, the acquisition last month was, or last month, a couple of weeks ago, was 7 million. This was 3 million. Is it safe to say you guys have a great financial backing behind the company to make all this happen?
We do. And also, if you look at those deals, they were all stock in terms of the acquisition cost. So people, we brought in folks who really believe in the message and the story. They're not, they're asking for ownership in this company to help grow it. And because we believe in empowering great entrepreneurs to build these businesses, we don't want to take the value out by just buying a business and trying to run it ourselves. We're bringing in these incredible teams. And I think we really want to highlight, the folks behind Ketamine Infusion Centers have opened 27 clinics in the last 4 years. So they really understand how to open across 4 verticals. So they understand how to open and scale clinics. You know, the folks behind DELIC Labs have built and sold their labs for $120 million to a large player in the cannabis space. They really understand how to grow and scale these businesses. So I think what we're doing is really putting together an incredible team. You know, we're very team focused, we're very people focused, because people run businesses, but businesses don't run themselves. And we see this as an incredible opportunity and a moment to scale. And so we really think what we've put together is a great opportunity to touch and play in the psychedelic space in the now, not in the 7 years from now. And I think that's a huge opportunity, because there's going to be, you know, we see ourselves as being in the picks and shovels business, because we're really building the infrastructure for the psychedelic revolution. On the clinic side, on the lab side, we are the infrastructure play. So we think it's really strong.
I like that. So you're the infrastructure play. Question for you, devil's advocate. You guys are going to scale up pretty fast and roll out pretty fast on the clinic side. What does the competition look like, though? Are there other groups out there? Is there George Com Psychedelics that also wants to put a bunch of clinics out there? Or is the market just so big, like you said, because really mental health affects an enormous amount of people? Is there just an enormous market, and there's more than enough room for Delic to be a huge success, while other companies are also very successful as well?
Yeah, I think that where we've chosen to go is really important. There are some other folks who are doing clinical rollouts, but they're very focused on the 1%. You know, a lot of people are trying to do the multiple thousands of dollars cash pay, kind of only the top 1% or 0.1% of folks can pay for it. We think this is a huge opportunity to help people that are not in that top percentile. And so what we're working on is rolling out across, you know, cities that are not New York, Los Angeles. We think that that's great, but you get lost in some of these giant media markets, and you get lost in the size and cost of trying to do it, and you can't make it accessible. We believe in the accessibility of psychedelic wellness. And so we're working on, you know, the places that we are putting this out are places that have folks for whom insurance is incredibly important, and being covered is incredibly important. And so we've worked really hard to build a practice that is accepting of insurance, and that can allow people to get their health care without having to spend $4,000 or $5,000 cash to do this treatment.
Right.
And I think the accessibility is a huge part. Putting it in places where people really need it, and it is a lifesaver, is incredibly important. And if you look at some of the other folks who are doing this, they're very focused on kind of a very high-end, call it bespoke packaging, which is great for 2 or 3 clinics, and one person could win that market. But it's not going to be really scalable more than those places. There's not that many. I don't know if you know a lot of people who have $5,000 burning a hole in their pocket.
Most people, look, we saw the stats, especially over the last, especially with this latest COVID, that what is in America, something like 50% of people wouldn't be able to handle a $400 or $500 unexpected bill.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah,
I think it's so important to make this accessible. And so you're going to see from us a real focus on accessibility and scalability, and working with folks that need it. And that just makes the total addressable market millions and millions of people.
And by the way, insurance companies, I see it. Here's an assumption, because I'm still learning. I thought insurance companies, I was just assuming insurance companies aren't at the point yet where they're picking up the tab, or they're making this an approved expense. So are insurance companies actually covering ketamine sessions?
Yes, there is a newly approved version of ketamine called S-ketamine by Johnson & Johnson that was approved by FDA for treatment-resistant depression a bit over a year ago. And so we offer that at our clinics, and it is fully covered by insurance. So there is a modality that is fully accessible and covered by insurance right now. So we just think that's super important.
The great thing about this space is it's exploding. The great thing about Delic is you guys are exploding, because there are a lot of different other elements of this. It's not just the ketamine centers, but we can't cover it all in one shot. But I think this is a great one, especially because the infusion center is going to play such a big part of this vertical integration. We'll have you back, but before we leave you, what is it you want your shareholders and new people who are watching at home to understand? What's the main takeaway you want them to know about DELIC?
Sure. I just think, we are very much a purpose-driven company that believes in creating real cash flowing businesses that will support the growth of this industry and be that infrastructural pipeline. So when new novel compounds come on, we'll be the place that people go to get those new novel compounds. And we think that there's a huge opportunity to help build that framework and build that ecosystem for psychedelic wellness. And so if you want to be a part of really making psychedelic wellness mainstream, be a part of DELIC. We'd love to have you.
And for everybody at home, not just what we've talked about today, but you've got to go take a look at DELIC, because the team of people they have behind it, the real winners who have won, and Matt's kind of mentioned some of that success. And at another point, we'll go through the team. It's not just words. It's not just a CEO who's being, idealistic and really hopeful. It's backed by a real plan, a real team of people who have succeeded. So you've got to do your due diligence on DELIC, that's for sure. Matt, thanks for joining us, buddy. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. To Matt Stang, CEO and co-founder of DELIC Holdings, trades on the CSE under DELC, and for our friends in the US, DELCF. Guys, we've told you where psychedelics is going. Paradigm shifting, parabolic growth this decade. There's no doubt about it that it's going to be massive. You've got to do your due diligence into how big of a role you think DELIC is going to play in that future. We can't tell you, unfortunately, but we've got a good idea of where we think it's going to be. But you got to make that decision. So get to Agoracom, do your research there, because there are a lot of elements. So we give you a really good overview of the company. But then you can see it right over Matt there. DelicCorp.com. Get to the site, do deep dive due diligence, because we don't want you to tell us 12 months from now, 5 years from now, that we didn't tell you about DELIC Corp. Do your due diligence and hopefully discover your next great psychedelics ecosystem company. Have a great day. See you next time.